apat o lima ay pwedeng-pwede na.
Kumuhit ng bilog sa lupa, kumuha ng lata at ilagay ang lata sa gitna. At pamato'y handa na.
At mula sa bilog at latang mga 6 na pulgada, gumuhit ng linya at doon pagulin ang lata sa gitna.
Ngunit teka muna, kailangang may taya. Kunin ang tsinelas at ihagi sa linya ang pinakamalayo,
ang siyang magiging taya.
Tara na't magtumbang preso. Masayang laro ng batang Pilipino. Buhayin ang larong katutubo, tuklasin at muling ituro
Sa mga bagong bata, batang Pilipino.
sa mga bagong bata, batang Pilipino. Pag tinamaan ang lata at hindi ito natumba, humanda na at hahabulin ka. Kaya tumakbo na.
Pamato'y dapat mabawi at huwag papahuli. Mag-ingat at baka abutin ka. At ikaw naman ang taya.
Tara na't magtumbang preso. Masayang laro ng batang Pilipino. Buhayin ang larong katutubo, tuklasin at muling ituro
Sa mga bagong bata, batang Pilipino.
sa mga bagong bata, batang Pilipino. Tara na't magtumbang preso. Masayang laro ng batang Pilipino. Buhayin ang larong katutubo, tuklasin at muling ituro. Tara na.
Tumbang preso. Tumbang preso.
Sa mga bagong bata, batang Pilipino.
Lord of wisdom, source of intelligence, we welcome you to this auspicious gathering, an august moment for the pursuit of knowledge that is offered for the glory of your name. We do not wish to ask you more than just you joining us today, but we look forward to your heavenly grace to amplify the desire for truth, to look up for and become prudent to learning. Keep us grounded in your love and mercy as we traverse a challenging path to keeping the inclination of understanding you and your most awe-inspiring creation. Be with us, O Lord, and descend your Spirit on us, to maintain an earnest desire for knowledge, truth, and understanding you, the guide of the wise, the stronghold of the learned. This we ask through Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Right. And, okay. Okay, magandang hapon. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, by the way, Coach JR is not here. That's why I'm here with everyone. No? So my name is Coach Josh. I'm your host for today. Right. So we have another great and exciting day. Once again, welcome to our professional learning community buddies here in the Philippines and around the globe. I'm again Coach Joshua. I am the technical manager of 1PhysEd.Ph. Together with me, we have Sir Paul, Sir John, Sir Mark, right, and the 1PhysEd team. Yeah, that's it. With all honesty, it's been a pleasure to serve the Philippines 1PhysEd community by providing regular professional development training. Imagine we have already reached our 80th episode today. Yes, this can only be possible with the continued support of this community to get relevant and meaningful professional development training. The regular Saturday becomes more exciting for us because we know that this kind of program can make a difference as we continue facing the challenges and demands of our profession. By the way, let's check muna kung sino yung mga nasa Zoom natin. So shout out to our Zoom participants. So we have Miss Mel Burabot. Good afternoon. We have Miss Aiza Beatriz Gutierrez. Good afternoon mga ma'ams. No? So maraming salamat sa pag-attend here in 1PhysEd.Ph. Alright, so I will not take this hold this event much longer now. So I will introduce to you our speaker for today. No? So we have an international speaker. Her name is Rachel. She is a whole school PE teacher and head of early years and primary PE at RDFC King's College School, Hangzhou, China. After qualifying as a secondary PE teacher in Sheffield, England, Rachel moved to Malaysia to begin her career in international education. Rachel spent 4 years teaching PE in Malaysia before moving to China, where she has spent the last 3 years. As a female in the world of PE and sport, Rachel has a passion for ensuring that females have equal opportunities in physical education and sport. Let's all welcome Miss Rachel. Rachel, you take it away.
All right, thank you for that introduction. I shall just share my screen. Okay, we should have the presentation there. All right, thank you for having me to speak, and thank you for coming and joining on a Sunday as well. So thank you for spending some time to listen. Yep, I'm based in China. Previously worked in Malaysia, so I've seen how females participate in PE and school sport within where I've worked in Asia, and I've been through the journey myself as a female in sport in England. So this presentation kind of talks about my own experiences as a student and what I've observed as a teacher. So just on the first slide of the presentation there, I've got some contact information. If anybody wants to get in touch after this presentation, the best way is probably my Twitter there. There's also my email address and my website, which feel free to check out for resources on female participation, and also there's a lot of early years and primary PE stuff on there as well. So this talk's a bit different for me. Usually I do present about early years and primary PE, but today I'm talking about gender equality with a focus on increasing female participation. So first, I want to ask you, you're spending time to attend this talk. So if you have anything in particular or any questions you really want answering during this webinar, please just type it into the chat box now, and I will do my best to answer questions or focus on what you want me to focus on. I'll just give you 30 seconds there to just pop down any questions or anything in particular. Okay, I'll leave the chat box open on my screen. So if anybody does pop anything down, I'll see it and I'll do my best. So to begin with, when I first really got passionate as a teacher about female participation in PE, I thought about my own journey through PE. And I know that sounds a bit selfish, but I think it's important that we do think about our own journeys and what we've experienced. So going right back to the beginning, when I was in primary school, I don't really remember there being much of a divide between girls and boys within PE. We did PE together, we did the same activities. I never felt as a girl I was excluded. I was probably very lucky with a lot of good sporty female teachers, but there was never really any divide there. As I went into secondary school though, the divide became more apparent. Girls and boys were split for a lot of lessons. Girls were typically taught by a female PE teacher, boys by a male PE teacher. Activities were often different. So girls did netball, boys did basketball, girls did hockey, boys did PE. Boys would have 2 or 3 football teams per age group, whereas girls, there were about 3 girls turning up to football training. So there was more of a divide and there was definitely less girls involved. As I went on to university and studied physical education and youth sport, there were more boys on the course, but there was, again, that there wasn't really a divide. It did feel very much like we were all there for the same reasons. We all wanted to be PE teachers. We all worked together in theory and in practical, gymnastics, swimming, athletics. We were all together. It really didn't make a difference whether you were male or female. Then as I went on to do my teacher training, the divide came back. I was actually placed in two schools to do my teaching practice. And there did feel like there was a bit of a divide within departments between male PE teachers and female PE teachers. This was when I really started to notice gender stereotypes and really started to do some research on gender stereotypes, because I noticed that female PE teachers were either really girly PE teachers, hair, makeup, nails, your typical really girly women, or a lot more tomboyish, masculine, kind of fitting the stereotype of the lesbian PE teacher. And there was kind of those two extremes, which I found really interesting. And then there was also a power dynamic as well. If it felt like if women were in charge of the department, they were a lot more friendly and jokey with males within the department. And there was more competition between females within the department, which again, I found really interesting, because as a female in PE and sport, I wanted to really emphasize the importance of women supporting women within that environment, whereas it felt like some women actually got really competitive in the environment. So that's where I really started to look into gender stereotypes and power dynamics. And then being a PE teacher in Malaysia was very interesting. There was different cultures and the religious aspect, with me teaching a lot of Muslim students. There were times when girls and boys had to be separated, but there were also more rigid gender stereotypes. Men were your stronger, more dominant sex, and females were a lot more passive and didn't necessarily recognize the importance of being active. And even parents didn't see the importance of their daughters being active. And coming to China, there's a similar stereotype. Males are your stronger ones, and females are your girls sitting on the side and watching. And again, you're not just battling the students, you're battling parents' perceptions as well. And it was just more intense than what I'd grown up with in the UK, really. So looking at this picture, they say a picture paints 1,000 words. I think there's many different stories behind this picture. There's many reasons this female student could be sat out, and the PE teacher there kind of trying to comfort her. So I'm just going to give another 30 seconds for you to jot down in the chat box any ideas you may have behind this story. Why is this girl sat out of her PE lesson? If you have any ideas, just pop them down in the chat box for me. I'm going to pop one down in case people are worried about being the first to comment. So I've popped down in the chat box jokes about her body. So as we know, teenagers, not just females, but teenagers, full stop, can become quite body conscious. They're going through puberty, their body's changing, and PE is it's physical. Your body's on show constantly. So if you're a little bit conscious, then you're going to feel even more conscious in PE lessons. So that was one story I could think of. Another story I thought of was maybe, I mean, this girl has obviously been active. She has her PE kit on, she's a bit dirty, so she's been active. I thought maybe she is an active female within PE, has been taking part in the lesson, and her female friends have been making fun of her because they're not as active. So you've got that peer pressure there. It could be she was taking part in a lesson with boys and she was on a team with boys. The boys lost and they blamed her. I've been in that situation before. It's very easy for the boys to blame failure on the girl in the team. We didn't win because we have more girls on our team. My students say that to me all the time. So or she could have period cramps or something that have made her really uncomfortable while participating in a PE lesson. But I wanted to show that picture because it's obviously something we do not want to see. I'm sure we've all been that PE teacher trying to comfort a student who's feeling excluded during a lesson. So I just wanted to put that up there to show there's many different reasons for this girl no longer being active. And this, I think we need to be very conscious of. I found this on LinkedIn not so long ago, actually, but a little bit of a breakdown behind who influences who to be active. So when we look at the mother section, mothers are equal if they have a son or a daughter. Typically, they're equal with who they encourage to be physically active. If we look at school teachers and coaches, because that's who we are, we're fairly good at having quite an even focus on participation from males and females. The bit I really focus on is the friends, because we deal with a lot of friendship groups within PE. And as we can see, the girls are lower than the boys here. So I'm sure you've seen in your PE lessons, especially if you have mixed sex lessons, often your boys are encouraging each other to play more, to be more competitive, to run faster. And your girls sometimes group up and hide away together, which we do need to be conscious of, because within that group of girls, there are maybe 1, 2, 3 girls that actually really, really want to participate. They really enjoy PE, but because they're in that friendship group, there's that peer pressure stopping them. And sometimes that's the easiest thing to target. I've found in my lessons, sometimes the easiest thing is to just observe and figure out whether that group of girls staying together is productive or not. Sometimes you might have that group of girls who you think, actually, if I let these girls stay together and I give them a space that is just for them, and I almost bargain with them, I'm going to let you stay and participate together. You have this badminton court all to yourself. But to stay together, you need to be active. You need to be playing. I want to see 10 minutes of activity. And then you can break and have a 3-minute chat. And then 10 more minutes of activity. If you don't do that, you're going to get separated. Sometimes that works really well. Sometimes you can use that peer pressure positively. Other times you might be able to pick out the girls that really want to be active. I was the girl at school that wanted to compete against the boys. And you might think, actually, I'm going to take those girls and discreetly kind of push them towards this more active group. And then that's them sorted. They're going to be happy. They've been taken out of almost that toxic friendship group. they can be active, and then I can think about what I'm going to do with the rest of these girls. So that is just a really easy way to think about one of the barriers we can overcome. So thinking back to that first picture, which was quite a negative picture, this is the picture we all want to see. Girls happy, smiling. This is actually a student from my school. We did a girls only boxing session and the girls absolutely loved it. You can see the smile on her face there. All girls were engaged and just enjoying a bit of boxing. And I actually used this as a poster to promote the This Girl Can program that I ran at my school, which I'll continue to talk about a little bit more. But this is the picture we want to see. This is a lot more positive. So thinking about how we get this picture, I realized that I needed to set something up for girls. And in the UK, there's a program called This Girl Can, and it's been running for years. And it's all about female only participation, safe space, a whole range of activities, female only. And I thought, okay, well, can I do that where I am now? I'm a PE teacher. We have to run after school clubs. Perfect. I'll use an after school club and I'll call it This Girl Can, and it will be girls only. And I can offer all sorts of activities. Fantastic. But thinking about it a little bit more, I thought if I just have this club and it's just me or it's just the PE department, students aren't really going to understand why there's a need for a female only club or why this is so important. So we actually decided to take a whole school approach towards this, which if you have a supportive school who are willing to help you with this, I would really recommend you get the whole school involved, because students don't just need, they don't just need the club, they don't just need the opportunity. They need to understand why this opportunity is so important. And they need to understand barriers that may get in their way and barriers that are being broken down. So we took a whole school approach, and we actually started to teach our secondary students. So our school is from KG right through to senior school. We focused on the secondary students because that was when we noticed a decrease in female participation. And we educated our secondary students on gender stereotypes and gender identities. And it was really interesting because I think it was something our students hadn't really thought about before. So our first session, and this is, we have a weekly class called Personal Social Development, and we use that time to teach about gender identities. And I presented this on the board. Is it a pictogram, this is called, I think. But I presented this on the board. And I gave the students a piece of paper with a male and a female column. And I asked them to pick as many words as they could in 3 minutes or something. Pick out as many words as you can, but you can only use each word once, and you have to put it into either the male or the female column for which it best goes with. So does proud go best with males or females? Helpful, males or females? And students writing all their words down in 3 minutes, and then we had a discussion about it. And what we found was typically words like proud, selfish, strong, competitive, arrogant, they were all in the male column. And then words such as helpful, polite, cheerful, cooperative, generous, they were all in the female column. And we had lots of conversations, student-led as much as possible, about this. And students realized that just from 3 minutes of thinking, they outlined that boys were the more bossy, the more in control sex, and girls were a lot more obedient and helpful and nice and a bit more passive. And we talked about why that was, why are we saying that? And then we thought about, if you could use words twice, would you put any words for boys and girls? And we had a few, but ultimately the belief kind of stayed the same. So then we talked about how that was stereotypical. It's a very stereotypical view to have, that boys are always going to be stronger and girls are always going to be more helpful. Is it the truth? No, but it's just what we naturally think, because of how we've been brought up, how we see our parents throughout history. It's usually been men that have been in control. And it was really interesting conversation, but the main thing for this was for students to realize how stereotypical they were being, and for boys to sometimes just assume that they were the boss, and for girls to just assume that they should always be polite and do as they're told. So we started to get students really thinking about this. And then we moved on to look at gender and what gender actually meant. And a big confusion there is, or misunderstanding, is between sex and gender. And I think this really comes into PE lessons. So our sex is male or female. It's the science. You are male or you are female, scientifically. Gender, however, is more of a spectrum: masculine, feminine. Now, typically we think males should be masculine, strong, in control, proud, and females should be feminine, polite, cheerful, cooperative. But is that necessarily true? And I showed these pictures, and students said these pictures were showing that no, it's not necessarily true. It's more of a spectrum. You can be male and have feminine traits. You can be male and you can be caring. You can be polite. You can be helpful. You can be female and you can be strong. You can be independent. And it was just really showing that we can go away from these stereotypes. And even with being a spectrum, it can change. So I used myself as an example. I'm a female PE teacher. When I'm at work, I'm in trainers, t-shirt, shorts, hair tied back, no makeup. I'm being bossy, I'm being loud, I'm running around, I'm sweaty, I like to think I'm strong when I'm at work. But if you were to see me out on a Friday or Saturday night with my friends, I might be wearing a dress and makeup and have my hair done nice, and I'll be more feminine. So it can also change. Where I am on this spectrum can change depending on the environment that I am in. And what I really wanted to break down for the girls in particular was, you can come to PE lessons or sports clubs and you can be really, really masculine. You can be competitive. You can be running around. You can be sweaty and active. That doesn't make you a man. Okay, that doesn't mean you always need to be this masculine. You can go home and you can be feminine. You can still be sporty and wear makeup. We don't want to just fit into those stereotypes, because I think that's what we're blocking a lot of my girls. I can't do that. That's what boys do. I can't do that. Everybody will say I'm a boy, or people say I'm stronger than the boys, and that's an insult. And I was just trying to show that you can shift on this spectrum. You're not stuck in one place. And we started to look at more barriers behind participation. And if you would like to drop down, if you would like to write any barriers that you've seen for your female students into the chat box, then please do. And we can have a chat about them. I'll show you what I identified. But if you have any that I've not written down, then please do put them down. So these were highlighted from my observations, and also we sent some surveys out to female students to ask them what they thought the barriers actually were, which again, it's really, really important that we get information from our students and opinions from our students. And these were the 6 main barriers. So confidence, girls just didn't feel confident to take part, especially if they were mixed with boys. And this was especially for girls from grade 9 up. Body image, girls hated swimming classes with boys. They hated swimming classes because they said, you know, wearing the swimming costume was horrible. The school PE kit was horrible. They just felt really uncomfortable. And from knowing that, we could make some really easy changes. We could say in swimming lessons, I mean, number one, we now try to split girls and boys after within secondary school. If we can't do that because of timetabling and teachers' availability, then it's easy. We say to girls, it's okay, wear your swimming costume. If you've got an old t-shirt, a light pair of shorts you would like to wear on top, go for it. It's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that at all. Same with boys. They don't like the trunks that they have to wear. So if they want to bring their own, no problem. If boys want to wear a t-shirt, absolutely fine. No problem with that at all. Some teachers didn't like it because they were very strict on kit. But for me, I understand where the girls are coming from. I understand completely. And if they need to wear something a little bit more loose to get them in the water, I don't really care, because they're going to get in the water and they're going to be active. So very easy to overcome that barrier right there. And we looked at activities, which activities we could keep girls and boys together, which activities we could separate girls and boys. And again, student voice is very, very, very important there. Gender stereotypes. So students said they actually had kind of no idea with the difference between sex and gender and how gender was a spectrum. So that little bit of education actually worked for not all students, but some students were like, okay, I understand now that just because I'm a girl who's sporty, that doesn't make me a man. It just means I want to be sporty during that time, and then I can go back to being feminine. Absolutely fine. So that little bit of education helped break down some barriers there. We realized, especially in China, there's a lot of pressure from studies in more academic subjects, the time students actually have to be active, what parents expect them to do, and friends. Because I work in most of my secondary students actually live at the school. It's a boarding school. So the friendship groups they are in they control each other in their friendship groups so much. There's so much peer pressure. You know, if somebody's friend doesn't do something, they won't do it. So we realized how kind of critical it was to try and make activities as social as possible so we could get all of the friends there together. Ability, a lot of the girls didn't feel like they were good enough to participate or to be involved in activities. So that really opened our eyes to differentiation, and also offering competitive and just participation activities. One thing I've found I think I just tried this last week actually in my lessons. I was doing badminton with grade 8, and I was noticing that it was the same 6 boys at the end of the lesson. You know, it was the same 6 boys playing. Everybody else was sitting on the floor talking, girls and boys. And what I did after we'd learned about the rules and all the different shots in badminton, I just wrote up on the board. I divided the board in 2 and had a participation column, which was just play for fun, and a competitive column, which was king and queen of the court. And as my students were coming in and I was taking the attendance, I asked them, write your name in either competitive or participation. Do you want to play in a competition, or do you just want to play badminton for fun? Now, badminton is very popular in China. I'm being stereotypical there, but it is. But a lot of students were feeling pushed out because they weren't winning games. So the class was divided. There were a lot more names in participation. All of my girls except 2 girls wanted to do participation, and actually a lot of the boys also wanted to be participation. So I could say to those students, okay, that's fine, you've got the courts over there, go and play. However you want to set it up, you know the rules for singles, you know the rules for doubles, you know all the different shots. However you want to play, just go, do what you've learned, be active. Play with whoever you want to. Competitive people, we're going over here, we're going to play a competition, I'm going to put the fixtures on the board, you're going to record your scores, there will be a winner. And that kept everybody happy. That was the most active I saw that whole class for the entire lesson, because they had different focuses, they could choose. Some students were really, really, really motivated because they wanted to win, which is fine. That would have been me when I was at school. Some students just wanted to play and have a chat, and there was no winner or loser, so there was no pressure there with ability. So if you can set something like that up where you let students choose, I would highly recommend that. And it also shows students that as PE teachers, we don't just concentrate on winning and losing. That is one side of sport. But in PE, we also care about your learning, your participation, your creativity. If you're creating your own kind of format for badminton, we care about that as well. And then, unfortunately, females did say that males often intimidated them during class. They knew boys were watching, and sometimes boys were making comments about girls being active. So that's where I realized that as much as we need to educate girls and, you know, inspire girls, we also need to educate boys and ensure that the boys in our class know that what they say, how they act, does have an impact on how people feel. So we need to make sure boys and girls understand these gender stereotypes. So as I say, it was more than just PE. It was more than just a sports club. It was a whole school approach. And I was very lucky that the school supported me in kind of making this a really big thing. I went into assemblies and spoke about gender stereotypes. I used PSD and tutor time to have presentations like the slides I showed you previously. And then This Girl Can became an after school club that was the end result of an education. And it was 3 weeks through tutor times and PSD. It was 3 weeks of education that students received. So they first looked at gender stereotypes in society. what gender is, what gender stereotypes are in society. Then week 2 was more specific. What are our gender stereotypes in sport? Which sports are stereotypically for boys and for girls, and why? And obviously a lot of that is based on history and is very outdated now. And then the 3rd week was, how do we overcome these challenges? And we looked at a lot of examples. You know, for example, the US women's football team protesting and campaigning for equal pay and how successful they've been in the US. We looked at the first time a woman ever ran in a marathon. We looked at women entering the Olympics and how all these challenges had been overcome. Which is, oh, sorry. This link here, which I will try and get in the, I'll try and get it in the chat box at the end of the presentation. If you follow this link here, it will actually take you to the first week presentation, and it's free. It's free. So have a look at that. See if it would relate to your students, change it up a little bit. And if it's something that you can take into your school, I cannot express enough how this is, if we really want equality, it's not just about what we do in PE. We do have power as PE teachers, but it's an education. Students need to first understand why there's not equality before we look at how to create equality. And we can't do that just as PE teachers. We can't do that alone. We need the school to support us, and it needs to be seen as a real education. Something that became very apparent was girls need motivations to get them involved. So again, I asked my students, what do you want? What are your motivations? What would help you get more involved in PE lessons and sports teams? And there were 6 main ones. Again, this was sent as a survey. All our students use Microsoft Teams. So I could create a survey and send it out to my students. If you have something like that you can send out to students and you can have like a big report of answers, it's really, really useful to get some student voice on these questions. So my students said they want to look good. They want to look good while they're doing PE, which we looked at our PE kit and we changed our PE kit slightly. Because to begin with, it was all male fitted clothes. So we started providing female fitting t-shirts, obviously not tight, but you know, they actually had a better fit on the body and slightly shorter sleeves. So we had female fit t-shirts and shorts. We were very traditional to begin with, and girls had to wear the very old-fashioned skirts, which I hated. So they don't need to wear them anymore. They can wear shorts, they can wear tracksuit bottoms. We even have sports leggings now, which a lot of the girls really, really like. And we just say, as long as you wear the school leggings, because they're a bit thicker and they're the sports material, then that's fine. And that alone meant that girls were wearing PE kit, because a lot of girls were coming to lessons, I forgot my PE kit. And then you've got no hope getting them active. So at least they were coming, they liked the PE kit, so they were wearing the PE kit. That was already one step closer to them doing something. Number 2, they wanted to feel good. So I asked them what that actually meant, and they said they didn't enjoy it when the PE teacher was too much like an army drill sergeant. They don't mind doing exercise, but they don't want to walk out of every lesson feeling absolutely shattered and like they'd just done ran a marathon or something. So we started to think about, okay, well, not every lesson needs to be like that. Also, let's make sure every lesson has some success. So that's kind of where my competition and my participation came into it. You push yourselves as hard as you want to, as long as there's an element of physical activity and learning, which links to achieving goals. So we now, at the beginning of every topic, we allow students to set their own goals, and it doesn't necessarily need to be winning or being able to perform a perfect serve in volleyball. It can be a very personal goal. Students want to have fun, which fair, you know, I'm still sporty, but I want to enjoy myself when I do it. So we looked at alternative activities and, again, different focuses. What would mean it was fun for you? Will it be fun if you can play against your friends or you can choose your teams? What activities will be fun? Which just came back to really a bit more student choice, which is good practice anyway. Learning new skills, girls, and this was a bit of a surprise to me, but girls, a lot of girls did say they wanted to learn new things. You know, they do want to be challenged. They want to be successful, but they want to be challenged and they want to learn, which gave me a lot of confidence, because I thought, okay, well, maybe in my effort to make you happier, I'm making things far too easy for you. So actually, let's get some more challenge there, which again comes into your differentiation. And then social time, which I think is a very teenager view anyway. So for boys as well as girls, they want to be social. This is one of the PE is one of the, if not the only subject where students can be social and they're not sat at a desk. They're allowed to talk to each other. They're encouraged to share ideas and to have communication and to show teamwork and to be creative. So let's use that to our advantage and take our hands off the control a little bit and pass it over to the students. And a little plus there is that females did find it inspiring to have female leaders and role models. And I know as a female, that's very easy to say, and it's not by any means saying that as a man, you cannot inspire females. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think it is important, if you're a female PE teacher, to really use to your advantage the fact that you are a female role model, and to use your own experiences as an inspiration to students. But also, I have found, and I'm very guilty of this, sometimes when we're teaching a sport, say football, and we use examples of famous footballers, it's usually men that we use. We rarely show a picture of a female footballer as a inspiration, or I show a lot of videos, especially for athletics, certain things I don't want to demonstrate, might use videos. It was always a man that I was using in my videos. So now I try and be a bit more balanced. Is there a female athlete I can refer to? Is there a female team? Is there a video of female performers that I can use? So you've got a mix of both male and female role models there, so students can see boys and girls, men and women can be successful in this activity. And at the end of all this, this program of This Girl Can happened, and it was an after-school activity for our boarding students. It was just 1 hour a week. We kept it really, really simple. Come along, 1 hour a week, girls only. We gave a lot of control to the students. The first week was just a load of girls coming and writing down on post-it notes, on the sticky notes, what they would like to do, what they would like to learn. And we had all sorts. We had, you know, badminton, boxing. Some students wanted to be taken off campus and go for a walk or a run. We're really lucky we have a lake close by. So some girls just wanted to go and run around the lake for an hour, which I would have never have thought of offering, if I'm honest. So it was really nice that to get ideas from girls. Some students wanted to bring their bicycles to school so they could go for a bike ride around the campus. Fantastic. So we left it very open to the girls to give us ideas, and we all decided the best way to do it was a 4-week block of an activity, and then we changed the activity. And all of these activities had a participation level and a competitive level. And it was really successful. If you can run any or trial any kind of this girl can kind of program at your school, if you have control on after school programs, I would really recommend giving it a go, because it transfers into your PE lessons. Once girls become more confident in their own social group with girls only, it transfers into their PE lessons. The confidence comes over into PE lessons, and the motivation and the want to learn, and that, you know, almost addiction to physical activity comes into your PE lessons. And looking at what's next, I'm by no means finished or perfect with my program. We've got a long way to go. I want to look at how I can reward the girls. So keeping a register, and if they attend 20 sessions, they get a water bottle with, you know, the school logo and this girl can logo on it, or they get a t-shirt that they can wear to the club, just to kind of recognize the girls who have been committed to this. And student ownership. I don't want to be the person in charge for long term. I want to be able to hand this over to the students and allow the senior students to run some clubs for the younger students, because, you know, some of our girls are fantastic dancers. I cannot dance to save my life, so it would be really good for students to lead activities. And also a festival of activity I thought would be really nice. I know there's other schools in my area who I've shared this idea with, and they've actually started doing it as well as an after school club. So I thought, well, for our area, we could get all the schools together. I know this is hard because of COVID, but we could get all the girls to one school and we could just have a big kind of festival, carnival of activities for all the girls that participate in this Girl Can. That's like the end goal, I think, would be a real celebration of physical activity. So these are another couple of links that I will pop in the chat box. The top one is just a blog that I send out about how my This Girl Can program is going, and reflections and a few student voices, which may help you if you decide to go down this route of having this kind of club at your school. And the second is my website, which, as I said before, it has resources, blogs, not all of it on gender equality, but anything I do or write or create goes on my website. So I'll find a way to pop them in the chat box. And this really is just, you know, our students need us to give them a bit of motivation and to get involved and show that we care about them doing more. I think sometimes as PE teachers, we get a bit of a bad reputation for just caring about the students who are good at sport. So once in a while, we need to do something to remind our students that it's not always the most competitive we care about. For me anyway, and for my department, our main goal is promoting lifelong physical activity. So we just need to remind the students of that sometimes. Final link for all three of those, if you're interested in those presentations. This is a link to get all three of the presentations. As I say, that they're not perfect. They might need to be changed a bit for your students, but again, I just can't express how much giving that background education on gender stereotypes, etc., really helped our students understand the barriers that were in place and how we can overcome these barriers. And actually, one thing I will say, I know I've focused on females, but for the males, them understanding why girls sometimes felt a bit more nervous, boys having that understanding made them really think about what they said and how they acted around girls, which was really, really nice for me to see the boys taking this on board as well. Thank you for sharing that in the chat box, Mark. Thank you. And some extra, again, I'll get this in the chat box, some extra links is kind of, the top one is some information on This Girl Can in the UK. I borrowed a lot of my ideas from what has already been done in the UK. And this second one is actually a free course that you can do, probably a lot more informative than me, but a course that you can do that looks at barriers and ways to overcome barriers for females. Yeah, really, I did this, it took me an hour and a half, maybe, really quick course that really gets you thinking and gives you some easy ideas to put in place. And then that's me done. Just thank you for listening. I hope something in there was helpful, or you've got some ideas that you can take away, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Such a wonderful and inspirational talk. For those who are in the Zoom session, maybe you can post, if you have any questions, you can do so. You can post in the chat box. For those who in the YouTube channel, you can also comment down in the comment section your question. But while waiting for their questions, Rachel, I'm very much moved by the talk. Personally, here in the Philippines, or as a PE teacher, personally, when I handle my classes, gender equality or equal opportunity for everyone to participate, that's a different perspective for me. But the way you said it opened a new perspective that these students, physical activity students of ours, they have some barriers that they're going through. That as a physical education, we have educators, we have know these barriers if we really want our students to participate in physical activity. I have this aha moment when while you're talking, because one of the schools that I've handled, I really saw female participation in physical education when they are with females alone. We have this. I taught in this school wherein males and females are separated in physical education, and you can really see that the participation of the female is really everyone is really participating, because again, as what you said, there's no competition, there is no such thing as you stereotype the male students because they're not mixed. They have their own classes for each gender. So yeah, as a PE teacher, I think it is very much important for us to consider and look into, for us to really engage our students in physical education. And then and thank you for that, Rachel. Okay, so let's check the chat box if they have any questions.
Don't think so. I'm just posting the links in.
All right. Rachel, I'm just very curious. How's the when you pursue this program in your school, how's the participation of female students? What's the result of the participation of the female PE students, of course?
Since I've done This Girl Can, it's definitely increased. As I say, once students start participating in This Girl Can and seeing a different side of PE, they do get more involved in PE lessons. I think, unfortunately, PE also has a stereotype of being competitive. So a lot of girls are automatically switched off and they don't want to be like that. So I think showing them This Girl Can and showing them that it can be social and they can be in charge of what they do. And also, again, a lot of teachers actually attend This Girl Can. So they see a lot of female teachers, sometimes PE teachers, sometimes, their maths teacher, their art teacher also come along and take part. So they see a lot of women who they look up to being physically active. And I think they must kind of think, okay, well, this is okay for me. And then gradually that transfers into PE lessons as girls become more confident in their body and their ability and their movements. So yeah, it's definitely increased. We've got a way to go. And yeah, we need to get more and more girls involved because the peer pressure really comes into it. Sometimes you'll get some girls that attend This Girl Can and they're great, but then in a PE lesson, they're in a friendship group with a lot of girls who don't attend. So then they don't want to participate in the PE lesson. So yeah, we've got a way to go, but typically it does increase.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. Rachel, we have a question from our YouTube channel. It's from Piolo Geronimo. He's asking, is gender differences has something to do with being an excellent individual in specific sports? What is your stand on this?
Gender differences, sorry, can you repeat that?
Its gender differences has something to do with being an excellent individual in a specific sports. What is your stand on this?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think the whole gender thing, gender stereotypes and gender differences, for me, is almost an old-fashioned control of what males and females can do. So a lot of sports are gendered, mainly for males, but I guess our cheerleading and dance is more gendered for females. So I mean, I guess it can have a knock-on effect if you've got a boy who is very good at dance, there will probably be jokes about him being very feminine. And then if you've got a girl who is very good at football, you get the comments like, oh, you play like a boy, which is seen as an insult. So it can be quite, I guess there's that judgment there. So the real breakdown that there needs to be with gender is this whole spectrum and fluid aspect to it, and how it can change. And I guess just like the barriers that we need to break down, it's breaking down that perception of some sports being for males and some sports being for females. Because I think the world is moving on from that. It's just us pushing it with our students as well.
For that answer. I think we don't have any question. It's just more of a thank you message for everyone. We really appreciate your topic and your sharing for in regards to female equality. In this point, may I ask Sir Mark to please present our small token of certificate to Ms. Rachel. This certification of appreciation is hereby awarded to Ms. Rachel Ford for generously sharing her expertise as a resource speaker during the sports series with the theme Empowering School Sports for a Better Tomorrow in the webinar titled Gender Equality in Physical Education and School Sports. Via 1PhysEd YouTube channel and Zoom awarded this 8th day of May 2022. Signed by our founder, Mr. J.R. Viterbo, yours truly, your technical manager, Joshua Villarreal, and Hazel Denise Carmen, our program and events manager. Thank you very much, Rachel, for sharing and for giving us your time for us to appreciate the gender equality in physical education. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for asking me to speak.
Thank you very much, Rachel. At this point, Sir Mark, may you a few reminders before we end our session for today. We also we want to encourage everyone. We already have our premium membership in 1PhysEd.Ph. You can register to Shopee link, so you can just check 1PhysEd in in Shopee and try to follow the procedure on how to be part and be member of 1PhysEd, and then a premium member. And also we have this awesome shirts that were that you can avail. So we have the blue and the red one. Also, both of this can be availed in our Shopee page as well. And there, next. And yeah, so we already have our 1PhysEd.Ph website. As you can check there some of our materials in regards to professional development and our shop and other cool stuff that we offer. And then, Sir Mark. Right, so kindly visit our Facebook page for the articles, inspirational posts, community announcement, program, and activities. So www.facebook.com/1PhysEd.Ph. So again, so our international sports series will last until May 28th. Next, Sir Mark. So yeah, so your certificate can be accessed through this link. So, right, so here, I'll send it in the chat box.
Thank you.
All right, so one more thing before we end this. Can everyone open your camera for a photo op opportunity with our resource speaker, Ms. Rachel Ford.
Miss Rachel.
So Miss
The
Rachel
back
is
of the
our...
1%.
Alright, so everyone, again, let's have a wonderful smile. Alright. And 1, 2, 3. Sir John, can you also take a photo? If it's okay. A screenshot. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. So thank you very much, Rachel, for being with us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So once again, guys, the link for the certificate is on the chat box already. And for the YouTube, I think one of our team will post it there. Right? So, right, so that's it for everyone. So thank you again, everyone, for being with us today. So remember, break the limits and go beyond. Right. See you again next week for another wonderful session.